Welcome back to the BookTubePrize channel. My name is Robert, and today I am going to introduce 10 new books that I've received recently from publishers for next year's BookTubePrize in the fiction division. The first one is called Rainbow Milk by Paul Mendez. In the 1950s, ex-boxer Norman Alonso is a determined and humble Jamaican who has immigrated to Britain with his wife and children to secure a brighter future. Blighted with unexpected illness and racism, Norman and his family are resilient, but are all too aware that they will need more than just hope to survive in their new country. At the turn of the millennium, Jesse seeks a fresh start in London, escaping a broken family, a repressive religious community, and his depressed hometown in the industrial black country. But once he arrives, he finds himself at a loss for a new center of gravity and turns to sex work, music, and art to create his own notions of love, masculinity, and spirituality. A wholly original novel, as tender as it is visceral, Rainbow Milk is a powerful celebration of self-discovery and intersectionality. The next one is called The Atmospherians by Alex McElroy. Sasha Marcus was once the epitome of contemporary success, an internet sensation, social media darling, and creator of a popular woman's wellness brand. But a confrontation with an online troll has taken a horrifying turn, and now she's at rock bottom, fortressed in her apartment while men's rights protesters rage outside. All that once glittered now condemns. Sasha's oldest childhood friend, Dyson, a failed actor with a history of body image issues, hatches a plan for Sasha to restore her reputation by becoming the face of his new business venture, the Atmosphere, a rehabilitation community for men. Billed as a workshop for job training, it is actually a rigorous program designed to rid men of their toxic masculinity. Sasha reluctantly accepts, but what horrors await her as the resident female leader of a crew of washed-up desperate men? And what exactly does Dyson want? Explosive and wickedly funny, The Atmospherians peers straight into the dark heart of wellness and wokeness, asking what happens when we become addicted to the performance of ourselves. The next one is called Gold Diggers by Sanjena Sathian. Spanning 2 continents, 2 coasts, and 4 epochs, Gold Diggers expertly balances social satire and magical realism in a classic striver story that skewers the model minority narrative, asking what a community must do to achieve the American dream. In razor-sharp and deeply funny prose, Sanjena Sathian perfectly captures what it is to grow up as a member of a family, of a diaspora, and of the American meritocracy. Gold Diggers both entertains and levels a critique of what Americans of color must do to make their way. A floundering second-generation teenager growing up in the Bush-era Atlanta suburbs, Neil Narayan is authentic, witty, and smart. He just doesn't share the same drive as everyone around him. His perfect older sister is headed to Duke. His parents' expectations for him are just as high. He tries to want this version of success, but mostly Neil just wants his neighbor across the cul-de-sac, Anita Dayal. But Anita has a secret. She and her mother, Anjali, have been brewing an ancient alchemical potion from stolen gold that harnesses the ambition of the jewelry's original owner. Anjali's own mother in Bombay didn't waste the precious potion on her daughter, favoring her sons instead. Anita, on the other hand, just needs a little boost to get into Harvard. But when Neil, who needs a whole lot more, joins in the plot, events spiral into a tragedy that rips their community apart. 10 years later, Neil is an oft-stoned Berkeley history grad student studying the California gold rush. His high school cohort has migrated to Silicon Valley, where he reunites with Anita and resurrects their old habit of gold theft. Only now the stakes are higher. Anita's mother is in trouble, and only gold can save her. Anita and Neil must pull off one last heist. Gold Diggers is a fine-grained, profoundly intelligent, and bitingly comic investigation into questions of identity and coming of age that tears down American shibboleths. The next one is Second Place by Rachel Cusk. A woman invites a famous artist to use her guest house in the remote coastal landscape where she lives with her family. Powerfully drawn to his paintings, she believes his vision might penetrate the mystery at the center of her life. But as a long, dry summer sets in, his provocative presence itself becomes an enigma and disrupts the calm of her secluded household. Second Place, Rachel Cusk's electrifying new novel, is a study of female fate and male privilege, the geometries of human relationships, and the moral questions that animate our lives. It reminds us of art's capacity to uplift and to destroy. The next one is called A Lonely Man by Chris Power. Two British men, both writers, meet by chance in Berlin. Robert is trying and failing to finish his next book while balancing his responsibilities as a husband and a father. Patrick, a recent arrival in the city, is secretive about his past, but eventually reveals that he has been ghostwriting the autobiography of a Russian oligarch. The oligarch has turned up dead, and Patrick claims to be a hunted man himself. Although Robert doubts the truth of Patrick's story, it fascinates him, and he thinks it might hold the key to his own foundering novel. Working to gain the other man's trust, Robert draws out the details of Patrick's past, while ensnaring himself ever more tightly in what might be either a fantasist's creation or a lethal international plot. Through an elegant existential game of cat and mouse, Chris Power's A Lonely Man depicts an attempt to create art at the cost of empathy. Robert must decide what is his for the taking and whether some stories are too dangerous to tell. The next one is called Popisho by Leone Ross. Somewhere far away, or maybe right nearby, lies an archipelago called Popisho, a place of stunning beauty and incorrigible mischief, destiny, and mystery. It is also a place in need of change. Xavier Redshoes is the Maecenas of his generation, anointed by the gods to make each resident one perfect meal when the time is right. Annis, his long-lost love, is on a march toward reckoning with her healing powers. The governor's daughter, Sontaine, still hasn't come into her course, but her corrupt father is demanding the Maecenas make a feast for her wedding. Meanwhile, graffiti messages from an unknown source are asking hard questions. A storm is brewing. Before it comes, before the end of the day, this wildly imaginative narrative will take us across the islands through their history and into the lives of unforgettable characters. Leone Ross's Popisho is a masterful delight, a playful love story, a portrait of community, a boldly sensual meditation on desire and addiction, and a critique of the legacies of corruption and colonialism. Inspired by the author's Jamaican homeland, inflected with rhythms and textures of an amalgam of languages, it is a dazzling major work of fiction. The next one is called Secrets of Happiness by Joan Silber. Ethan, a young lawyer in New York, learns that his father has long kept a second family, a Thai wife and 2 kids living in Queens. In the aftermath of this revelation, Ethan's mother spends a year working abroad, returning much changed as events introduce her to the other wife. Across town, Ethan's half-brothers are caught in their own complicated journeys. One brother's penchant for minor delinquency has escalated, and the other must travel to Bangkok to bail him out, while the bargains their mother has struck about love and money continue to shape their lives. As Ethan finds himself caught in a love triangle of his own, the interwoven fates of these two households elegantly unfurl to encompass a woman rallying to help an ill brother with an unreliable lover and a filmmaker with a girlhood spent in Nepal, evoking a generous and humane spirit and a story that ranges over 3 continents. Secrets of Happiness elucidates the ways people marshal the resources at hand to forge their own forms of joy. The next one is called The 5 Wounds by Kirstin Valdez Quade. It's Holy Week in the small town of Las Peñas, New Mexico, and 33-year-old unemployed Amadeo Padilla has been given the part of Jesus in the Good Friday procession. He's preparing feverishly for this role when his 15-year-old daughter, Angel, shows up pregnant on his doorstep and disrupts his plans for personal redemption. With weeks to go until her due date, tough, ebullient Angel has fled her mother's house, setting her life on a startling new path. Vivid, tender, funny, and beautifully rendered, The 5 Wounds spans the baby's first year as 5 generations of the Padilla family converge. Amadeo's mother, Yolanda, reeling from a recent discovery, Angel's mother, Marissa, whom Angel isn't speaking to, and disapproving Tive, Yolanda's uncle and keeper of the family's history. Each brings expectations that Amadeo, who often solves his problems with a beer in his hand, doesn't think he can live up to. The 5 Wounds is a miraculous debut novel from a writer whose stories have been hailed as legitimate masterpieces, New York Times. Kirstin Valdez Quade conjures characters that will linger long after the final page, bringing to life their struggles to parent children they may not be equipped to save. The next one is called Early Morning Riser by Katherine Heiny. Jane falls in love with Duncan easily. He is charming, good-natured, and handsome, but unfortunately, he's also slept with nearly every woman in Boyne City, Michigan. Jane sees Duncan's old girlfriends everywhere, at restaurants, at the grocery store, even 3 towns away. While Jane may be able to come to terms with dating the world's most prolific seducer of women, she wishes she didn't have to share him quite so widely. His ex-wife Aggie, a woman with shiny hair and pale milkmaid skin, still has Duncan mow her lawn. His co-worker Jimmy comes and goes from Duncan's apartment at the most inopportune times. Sometimes Jane wonders if a relationship can even work with 3 people in it, never mind 4. 5 if you count Aggie's eccentric husband Gary, not to mention all the other residents of Boyne City who freely share with Jane their opinions of her choices. But any notion Jane had of love and marriage changes with one terrible car crash. Soon Jane's life is permanently intertwined with Duncan's, Aggie's, and Jimmy's, and Jane knows she will never have Duncan to herself. But could it be possible that a deeper kind of happiness is right in front of Jane's eyes? A novel that is alternately bittersweet and laugh-out-loud funny, Katherine Heiny's Early Morning Riser is her most astonishingly wonderful work to date. And the last one for today is Hummingbird Salamander by Jeff VanderMeer. The security consultant, Jane Smith, receives an envelope with a key to a storage unit that holds a taxidermied hummingbird and clues leading her to a taxidermied salamander. Sylvina, the dead woman who left the note, was a reputed eco-terrorist and the daughter of an Argentine industrialist. By taking the hummingbird from the storage unit, Jane sets in motion a series of events that quickly spiral beyond her control. Soon, Jane and her family are in danger, with few allies to help her make sense of the true scope of the peril. Is the only way to safety to follow in Sylvina's footsteps? Is it too late to stop? As Jane desperately seeks answers about why Sylvina contacted her, time is running out, for her and possibly for the world. Hummingbird Salamander is Jeff VanderMeer at his dazzling cinematic best, wrapping profound questions about climate change, identity, and the world we inhabit into a tightly plotted tale full of unexpected twists. Okay, there you have it, the latest installment of fiction submissions for next year's BookTube Prize. I'll be back again in a few more days with a nonfiction list. Bye, everybody.